In 2023, the famous Five Nights at Freddy's game series were finally brought to the movies and proved to be a resounding success. With a budget of just $20 million, the first movie generated nearly $300 million worldwide, the biggest hit that producer Blumhouse has ever had. So, it's absolutely clear that the whole project will be continued. Find out all about the current progress of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 in this video. Just like its predecessor, the horror film will be based on the video game series of the same name by indie game developer Scott Cawthon. Part 1 introduced us to the story of Mike Schmidt, who is hired as a night security guard in a rundown diner. When he learns that the puppets there contain the souls of dead children, he has to fear for his life. Although the first movie was not at all well received by critics, fans were mostly pleased. Accordingly, the reactions were positive when lead actor Josh Hutcherson officially confirmed at the beginning of January that work on Part 2 had already begun. Exactly what the plot of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is going to be like is not yet known. However, there are already some clues and theories as to where the journey could take us. Director Emma Tammy stated in an interview with Variety that the subsequent films could very well be based on the individual parts of the video game series. As a result, rumors have been circulating that revolve around Mike's brother, Garrett. Garrett's soul is said to reside in Balloon Boy, a character who first appeared in the second part of the games and provided plenty of scares. We are definitely expecting the introduction of a bunch of new characters anyway. In fact, another character is already announced at the end of the first movie. In the closing credits, a distorted voice spells out a series of letters that make up the phrase, "Come find me." Shortly before this, the song "My Grandfather's Clock" is played, a melody that die-hard fans will already be familiar with. In the games, this melody fends off one of the nastiest villains in the entire Five Nights at Freddy's universe, called the Puppet. It is an animatronic that is possessed by the spirit of a murdered girl. The introduction of the puppet as a possible antagonist in Part 2 could build a connection to the video game and is likely to excite fans. Initial rumors suggest that filming on Five Nights at Freddy's 2 will begin this year, meaning that a release in 2025 would be feasible. Emma Tammy will once again assume her position as director. One thing is certain though, Part 2 is also likely to be a big challenge for the director, since the fan base is huge and anything but easy to please, especially when it comes to details. So far, there has been no official confirmation of the cast of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, though some of the names are as good as certain. It can be strongly assumed that a number of the previous actors will return for the sequel. First and foremost, Josh Hutcherson, who was already impressive in Part 1 as the main character Mike. We can also expect to see Piper Rubio as Abby, Elizabeth Lail as Vanessa, and Mary Stuart Masterson as Aunt Jane. Besides the familiar cast, some influencers should also be featured again. This time, Mark Fishback, aka Markiplier, who was not involved in Part 1 due to scheduling conflicts, will finally be part of the cast. Director Tammy also confirmed that this time, Matthew Lillard will play a much bigger role as Steve Raglan. His character development is to take place over the course of 3 films. How do you like Five Nights at Freddy's? Did the movie live up to your expectations? And what would you love to see in Part 2? Let us know in the comments.